Good evening. Tonight we're pulling back the curtain on a crisis unfolding at America's ports, a sudden, unprecedented disruption to global trade. 7 of the nation's most critical ports have ground to a halt, choking off the flow of billions in goods. This isn't just about delayed packages, it's a threat to the stability of our entire supply chain and economy. From farmers to factory workers, every American is feeling the ripple effects. We'll take you inside this crisis, port by port, to uncover what's really happening and why it matters. Let's get to the facts behind the shutdown. We begin our journey at the Port of Los Angeles, a sprawling complex that serves as the main gateway for Asian trade into the United States. This port is not just a local hub, it's the beating heart of America's import and export economy, a place where the world's goods flow in and out, connecting continents and fueling industries across the nation. Nearly 40% of all U.S. cargo containers pass through these docks, making it the busiest port in the country. Every day, thousands of containers are unloaded, sorted, and shipped to every corner of America, carrying everything from electronics and clothing to cars and machinery. But today, the scene is eerily quiet. The usual symphony of engines, horns, and machinery has been replaced by silence. Dozens of massive cargo ships sit anchored offshore, unable to dock. Millions of dollars worth of goods are stranded at sea, waiting for a chance to move. The impact of this standstill is immediate and far-reaching. Retailers across the country are already facing empty shelves, unable to restock popular items. Manufacturers are halting production lines as they wait for critical parts that are stuck in transit. Small businesses, too, are feeling the pinch as their inventories dwindle and customers grow frustrated. On the export side, the situation is just as dire. Agricultural products, cotton, almonds, soybeans, are piling up at the docks, unable to reach overseas markets. Farmers and exporters watch anxiously as their goods risk spoiling or missing crucial delivery windows. The shutdown doesn't just affect cargo, it ripples outward, threatening the livelihoods of thousands of workers. Truck drivers waiting for loads, dock workers standing by idle equipment, and warehouse staff with nothing to move. Across the country, supply chains are grinding to a halt. Freight trains sit idle, trucks are parked at logistics centers, and highways that once bustled with commerce are now congested with freight that has nowhere to go. Even a short disruption here can have long-lasting effects. A few days of backlog at the Port of Los Angeles can take weeks, even months, to fully clear. The line of ships waiting to dock grows longer by the hour, and the pressure on the entire logistics network intensifies. This port is a single point of failure in a system that is more fragile than most realize. Its sudden halt is nothing short of an economic earthquake, sending shockwaves through every sector that depends on the steady flow of goods. Economists warn that the financial damage is staggering, measured in billions of dollars lost each day. These costs don't just affect businesses, they trickle down to consumers in the form of higher prices, product shortages, and economic uncertainty. The Port of Los Angeles is the epicenter of this crisis, but the tremors are spreading fast. Neighboring ports, rail yards, and distribution centers are all feeling the strain as the backlog grows. Logistics managers across the country are racing against the clock, trying to reroute shipments and minimize losses. But with every passing hour, the uncertainty grows. The question now is, how long can the system hold before the damage becomes irreversible? As the crisis deepens, we turn our attention to the Port of Los Angeles's twin, Long Beach, where the story continues to unfold. Just south of Los Angeles, the Port of Long Beach has long been a symbol of American efficiency and innovation in global trade. For decades, it has served as a vital gateway, handling millions of containers each year and connecting the United States to markets across the Pacific. But now, for the first time in modern history, the port stands eerily still. The familiar hum of cranes and trucks has faded, replaced by an unsettling silence that stretches across the sprawling docks. Ships that once lined up for miles now drift aimlessly offshore, waiting for a signal that may never come. The impact is immediate and profound, rippling far beyond the port's fences. Its closure, together with the neighboring Port of Los Angeles, effectively seals off Southern California's most critical trade lifeline. These two ports, side by side, handle nearly 40% of all containerized imports to the United States. Their sudden shutdown is not just a local inconvenience, it's a national emergency, cutting off the flow of goods that keep store shelves stocked, factories running, and businesses afloat. Rerouting this massive volume of cargo isn't as simple as redirecting a few ships. Other ports along the West Coast and even those on the Gulf and East Coasts simply don't have the capacity, infrastructure, or workforce to absorb the sudden surge. Congestion builds rapidly, with ships idling offshore for days or even weeks, and smaller ports struggling to keep up with the unexpected demand. For businesses, the consequences are dire. Containers filled with everything from electronics to clothing sit idle, unable to reach their destinations. Production lines grind to a halt as critical components fail to arrive. Retailers face empty shelves, and manufacturers are forced to delay or cancel orders. The financial losses mount by the hour, threatening the survival of companies both large and small. Over 1 million jobs in the region are directly or indirectly tied to these ports. The uncertainty is devastating for families and entire communities, as dock workers, truck drivers, warehouse staff, and countless others suddenly find themselves without work or income. The ripple effect spreads quickly, impacting local businesses, schools, and public services that depend on the economic engine of the ports. The shutdown also disrupts critical military logistics. The Port of Long Beach is a key node for moving military equipment and supplies, and its closure exposes a vulnerability in national security planning. With military cargo unable to move efficiently, the nation's readiness and response capabilities are put at risk. The combined silence of these two ports amplifies the crisis, making it clear just how much the nation depends on their flawless operation. The stillness is a stark reminder of the delicate balance that keeps global commerce moving and how quickly it can unravel. With both ports at a standstill, the entire regional logistics ecosystem collapses. Trucking routes freeze, warehouses sit empty, and distribution centers grind to a halt. The Inland Empire, a major logistics hub, feels the shockwaves as goods stop flowing and workers are sent home. The warning is clear: our global economic connection is far more fragile than most realized. A single point of failure can send shockwaves around the world, disrupting supply chains, raising prices, and creating uncertainty for millions. Now, as the crisis deepens, the pressure shifts to the East Coast. Ports from New York to Savannah brace for the influx, but the question remains: can they handle the strain, or will the disruption spread even further? On the East Coast, the Port of New York and New Jersey, America's busiest Atlantic port, has halted. This port is the lifeblood of the Northeast, handling everything from luxury cars to pharmaceuticals. Businesses scramble as supply chains built around this gateway are severed. Rerouting cargo is costly and slow, straining already thin margins. Thousands of truckers and small businesses lose income overnight. Exports are stuck, orders canceled, and relationships with global buyers at risk. The shutdown here paralyzes a different set of industries and communities, squeezing the economy from both coasts. The national crisis deepens. In the south, the Port of Savannah, America's top agricultural export hub, has gone quiet. Once a bustling artery of commerce, the port now stands eerily still, its cranes motionless and its docks empty. The hum of activity that once echoed across the water has faded, replaced by an uneasy silence that stretches for miles along the Georgia coast. For farmers across Georgia and the broader southeast, this is nothing short of catastrophic. Perishable goods, peaches, pecans, sweet onions, sit in crates, slowly rotting in the heat. With nowhere to send their harvest, loans go unpaid, and the financial strain ripples through entire communities. Families who have worked the land for generations now face the prospect of losing everything as the economic lifeblood of rural towns dries up. The effects are visible everywhere. Local markets run out of fresh produce, banks tighten credit, and even children sense the anxiety in the air as their parents worry about the future. The halt breaks the delicate chain from field to global market. Refrigerated containers packed with food destined for dinner tables around the world sit idle at the port. As days pass, the risk of spoilage grows, and with it, the loss of millions of dollars in revenue. Cash flow dries up, leaving farmers and exporters in limbo. The impact extends far beyond the farm. Processing plants slow production or shut down entirely, truckers wait for jobs that never come, and rural logistics hubs see their activity grind to a halt. Every link in the supply chain feels the strain, from the field to the factory to the open road. Globally, U.S. food exports stall, threatening food security abroad and America's reputation as a reliable supplier. Countries that depend on American grain, poultry, and produce are left scrambling for alternatives, while international buyers question whether the U.S. can deliver in times of crisis. Billions invested in expanding Savannah's capacity now sit idle. The promise of growth and prosperity put on indefinite hold. State-of-the-art cranes and vast storage yards built to handle record volumes are reduced to silent monuments of what could have been. For the Southeast, this is not just business, it's survival. Small businesses shutter their doors, families tighten their belts, and entire towns wonder how long they can hold on. The crisis at Savannah is a direct threat to the American heartland, testing the resilience of communities built on hard work and hope. The future of countless families and the legacy of American agriculture hangs in the balance. Next, we head to Houston, where the ripple effects of this crisis are just beginning to be felt. The Port of Houston, America's energy gateway, is at a standstill. This port moves massive volumes of oil, gas, and petrochemicals, fueling homes, cars, and industries nationwide. The Halt traps U.S. energy exports, disrupts refinery operations, and creates volatility in global fuel prices. Petrochemical plants face shutdowns, threatening jobs in the local economy. Projects across the country and world are delayed as critical equipment sits idle. The silence in Houston is a warning. Energy shocks could drive inflation and slow growth for everyone. This isn't just about goods, it's about the power that keeps America running. Now, to the Pacific Northwest. In the Northwest, the Seattle-Tacoma ports are a lifeline for tech and advanced manufacturing. The Halt here disrupts just-in-time supply chains for giants like Microsoft, Amazon, and Boeing. High-value components and agricultural exports are stuck, threatening production lines and harvests alike. Alaska, reliant on these ports, faces shortages and rising costs. The local economy, tech, aerospace, agriculture, feels the shock. The crisis here is less about volume, more about the high-value, time-sensitive cargo that powers innovation. The Pacific Northwest's success story is suddenly at risk. The final stop, Charleston. The Port of Charleston, a hub for automotive and retail, is frozen. Major car makers and suppliers are cut off from imported parts, halting assembly lines and threatening thousands of jobs. Fewer new cars reach dealerships, pushing prices higher for consumers. Retail distribution centers can't restock, risking empty shelves across the Southeast. Charleston's investments in modern facilities are stalled, and companies may seek alternatives if the crisis drags on. South Carolina's exports, from tires to machinery, are stuck, hurting local businesses and jobs. Here, the crisis hits home. The car you want, the products you need, all caught in the gridlock. Let's look at what comes next. We've seen a nation's arteries paralyzed. 7 vital ports, 1 systemic crisis. The impact is personal, jobs lost, prices rising, communities shaken. Clearing the backlog will take time, even after ports reopen. This crisis exposes our dependence on a fragile global system. Understanding the stakes is the first step toward building resilience. We'll keep following this story. Subscribe for updates as we track America's path forward. Good night.